Welcome to The Voiceover with your host, Dee Foster III, where we discuss relevant topics that affect the culture with bold, independent commentary. Get ready to be inspired, enlightened, and encouraged.
Our condolences go out to our executive assistant, Prophetess Kiara Rowley, in the transition of her husband, Minister Sean Rowley's dad. Listen, I want you, all of those of you who have experienced, seen her on our shows, gotten letters, invites from her, you know that she is one of the dearest women of God that I know. So our prayers go out to Kiara and Sean and the entire family. And as I have expressed to them personally, whatever Wake Up Global Networks and I can do, we are there. We are standing with you. The whole tribe of affiliates stand with you in this hour of loss. Listen, having said that, continue to keep the family in prayer. Kiara just interviewed me several weeks ago with a dynamic, personal, and upfront interview. And again, she is so valuable. She oversees all of the operations of Wake Up, oversees our team, oversees getting information out. And I just tell you, she is a precious gift from God to me and the Wake Up Global Networks family and affiliates. Now, having said that, to give Kiara the opportunity to be with her family in this time and to be of support to her husband, we are pushing back the awakening experience. That's right. No, we're not canceling it. Yes, still go to the website, www.wakeupglobalnetworks.com, to be a part. Yes, there is still a video that I'm going to do that is coming out. But again, I want it to be, and it's very important when people are committed and when people are a blessing to be very sensitive to where they are in life. And so we dare not push forth this endeavor with Kiara playing such a major role in everything that we do. We dare not push forth without her support. And of course, I desperately, I'm just created like that, need her administrative eye to oversee everything that we will do there. So listen, it's yet to come. Stay clued. We'll give you updates. We'll give you announcements. But meanwhile, keep Prophetess Kiara Rowley, Minister Sean Rowley, and their entire family in prayer during the transition of Sean's dad. All right? Having said that, I want to say welcome to the Voice Over Now podcast. I'm your host, Dee Foster III, CEO and president of Wake Up Global Networks. I want you at the beginning, you know what to do. I want you to share this. I want you to put a copy of this link in your bio, and I want you to press the hype button, right? The hype button. And I want you to press the like. I want you to subscribe to this channel. A special shout out goes to Minister April J. I want to say I am so very grateful for her commitment to giving us this platform to have our voice heard. You know, in any ministry, in any outreach, in any endeavor, there are always ups, downs, highs, lows. It happens whenever you attempt to do a vision. But I'm thankful that she is always willing and ready to stand by us, to support us, to give us a voice. So I want to say to April J, thank you. That's why I want you to support this channel. Support this African-American CEO. Support this woman who has traveled the globe, and we're going to have her on soon to talk about her endeavors. So I want to say thank you. You can follow me on social media, DJ Change 111, DJ Change 111. You can follow us on Wake Up Global Media on IG and keep up with everything that we are doing. I'm on IG and I am on X. All right, last time I saw y'all, like this, share this. I don't know what part this is. Whether it's I think it's part 3 of me talking about Metropolitan, but I think it's part 5 in the whole general subject matter of church gone wrong when Ambition trumps the mission. I tell you, we're going to get into some things now. In case you think that I am tramping on people's mistakes and failures, I will be the next topic. When I finish Metropolitan, I will tell you some things that happened in my ministry, some mistakes I made that I've never made public before. So I'm not picking on anybody. The whole purpose of this series is to remind us that sometimes with good intent, like we've been talking about with Mahogany, we started off. The praise and worship leader, you know, the good bishop's wife, no, the good bishop that dismissed Mahogany. Then we moved up to 13th and R Street, Metropolitan, good intent. But sometimes that ambition triumphs. Then we're going to move to D. Foster III's ministry. Good intent. Sometimes will triumph the mission. All right. Like this. Share this. Subscribe. Last time I left you at 13th and R Street in my hometown, Washington, D.C. And we were seemingly on the corner in front of the 1985 edifice that almost destroyed a church and pastor. I'm not going back to that. Go back to the previous. Can I be honest? I don't want to use the word hate. I dislike going over material because I think it's a waste of time, especially now in this digital age when you can go back and look at the previous videos. So I'm not going to go back in history. But before you see this, go back and look at part 1 and part 2 of Metropolitan and Church Gone Wrong. And now we come up to church almost gonna go wrong again. No, church did go wrong. So now we stand in front of the 1985 facility that Metropolitan built on a historical landmark and all the drama that it brought, right? And so now storms just keep coming for Reverend Dr. H. Beecher Hicks back then and the Metropolitan Baptist Church. Now, I talked as we closed last time about the area that Metropolitan was located in, and that is the Shaw area, a regentified area. Now you got to remember, and I'm going to talk about, I'll bring you at least to this part because it's my platform to move into what I'm going to talk about today. So we remember we talked about the regentification of the Shaw community, and if you ride all in DC is totally like parts of Baltimore, but even more gentrified. In other words, we're moving out into PG County because that's where Dr. Hicks wants to move. But there is a caveat, and I'll tell you about that. This is around the early 2000s, after it almost destroyed the church and ministry to build the 1985 church, right? But anyway, like this, share this. So do you remember when I told you DC was becoming gentrified? So, all right, now they're in the brand new building. They survived the storm. The church is growing in the late 80s and all through the 90s. Metropolitan is the African-American voice in DC. Now, there was my uncle's church, my father's brother-in-law, Vermont Avenue. Vermont Avenue has a historic location, but just Vermont Avenue never was the Metropolitan. Plus, they never had the Reverend Dr. H. Beecher Hicks, one of the most prolific pastors in the Baptist circle and in the country, to be honest with you, that I knew of back then. I told you I admired him. He was a mentor when I was in Howard. He was prolific in his presentation, just a master at the King's English, Harvard grad, professor. Dr. H. Beecher Hicks was a household name. And so everybody knew Metropolitan. During election season, all the politicians came to Metropolitan, kind of like they did when Frank Reed first went to Bethel, right? All right, okay, so like this, share this. So there's a message, I'm going somewhere. You know, I like to build a case. So Metropolitan settled down. They in the building that that Hicks fought to get them to. Some of the old congregation left. Some of the old congregation died. There's two ways you get rid of devils. Anyway, that's a whole nother story. Woo, God, yes, I feel this. It's going to be another part. I feel that, right? Because I want to tell the whole story. So Metropolitan, right? And if anybody watching from Metropolitan, you can email it at thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com, thevoiceovertheglobe@gmail.com. I have 3-4 generational roots in Metropolitan, so I kind of pretty much know what I'm talking about, right? So in Chihuahuas, this 150-year-old church is settled in 13th and R. The congregation peaks. They're on the radio. They've got Richard Smallwood, yes, for their minister of music there. I mean, they've got a mass choir, gospel choir, people coming from everywhere. Now, here it is. Watch this. So when they move, they come into the 90s, and PG County, blacks were moving out of DC, moving into PG County, moving into Howard County, moving into Montgomery County, because housing was going up in DC. DC was being gentrified, but Metropolitan was a household name. They owned the block across the street with about 10 houses. They had owned a store on the corner at one time. They owned a bookstore that was thriving. It was Metropolitan Baptist Church in DC, right? And the other church, I guess, well, they had moved by that time out to PG County, and I'll get to that in a minute, but they came later, Bishop Alfred Owens, right? But Metropolitan with the choir under Richard Smallwood and the preaching of Dr. Hicks and the class of dignity and middle class blacks coming in, tithing, the crowd began to grow. The buzz began to move out. Now, I want you to understand something. During this time that other black churches were moving to PG County, because that's where black people were moving to for one reason or another, especially in Northwest, Northeast, Southeast. A lot of it were, especially if they were government dependent, they were moving them out to Central Avenue. They were moving them out to Benning Road, out in that area. And so a lot of churches during that time, this is going to be important. You had Jericho Baptist Church out there. You had First Baptist Church, John Jenkins out there. You had Evangel Church in PG County. Now remember, these are not small storefronts. These are mega churches. Jericho, Betty Peoples, Don Mears, Evangel Church, John Jenkins, First Baptist Church, and some other medium-sized churches. And when I say mega, I'm talking about over 1,000 people, right? So these churches are moving out of the district, which pretty much leaves, at the time, Bishop Alfred Owens buys Evangel's old church, right, on Rhode Island Avenue. And it leaves, when it comes to the Baptist stream, even though Bishop Owens wasn't Baptist, but you understand what I'm saying, Metropolitan. So Metropolitan in the 90s was hitting on all cylinders, seats in the aisle, people standing up, 2 services, 60 ministries, Hicks hot number, right? Boom, 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 boom. There's a storm out on the ocean and is moving Metropolitan's way. What happened? 2,000 hits. The whole scenery changes. The people that built the 1985 Metropolitan, the people that paid for the 1985 Metropolitan that you see on the screen, here it is right here. The church that was built in 1985 that almost destroyed it. A lot of those people now were retired. A lot of those people had died. Okay? 2000s. We're coming up on an economic issue. There are young people joining Metropolitan. But here's the problem. The young people that are joining Metropolitan are in school debt. The young people that are joining Metropolitan just got married and have mortgages. The young people that are joining Metropolitan just have children, expenses, cars, expenses. So they got money. They're making good money, but the money is going out because they're just starting out in life. Unlike the crowd that built the 1985 Metropolitan. So all of a sudden, Metropolitan is becoming gentrified. And when Metropolitan becomes gentrified all around it, I told you some of this last week, that Metropolitan begins to get the heat from the other community because Metropolitan had to double park. And I remember going there several times. And if you double park more than 2 hours, they was going to ticket your car. Who wants to come to church and walk out of church? And then you watch a ticket, and then your words go to like the shit. Your words go the other way, right? So Metropolitan. All of the houses around our street, all of the houses around 13th were being bought out by Koreans and whites. And Metropolitan was this black establishment stuck in the middle of a transitional neighborhood that was taking up a lot of space. They were like, who is it? Jacob and Esau. They were amassing all the space, and they were like, you got too many cows, you got too many animals, our wells are going dry because of you. And so Reverend Dr. H.B.J. Hicks, being a visionary, I told you, always wanted to be the Robert Schuller of Christianity. He said it out of his own mouth. I heard him when I was at the Christian Cathedral in California. He admired Schuller. He wore a robe like Schuller. He wore a pendant like Schuller. He always wanted a cathedral. And so now, in his mind, it is time to venture out and to build this cathedral that I always wanted to build. There's a storm out on the ocean. Like to share this. There's lessons in this, and I'm not making fun. There's lessons when church goes wrong. So Metropolitan, in its endeavor. Now, I must admit, I cannot divulge all the information of who, but I must admit, this building project was going to be a little different than the one in 1985. This building project was going to be a little more difficult than the one in 1985. This building project was going to take a serious turning water into wine. Because what happened is they had bought 34 acres out in Largo. They called it God's property, right? They bought 34 acres out in Largo, right off of the Beltway. In the early 2000s, everybody was building in every city off the Beltway because they said, if you can find property off the Beltway, people will come. So everybody was looking for property off the Beltway. And so Metropolitan found 34 acres. And I think, what year was it? It was a 2000. I think I was in Louisiana then. 2008? No, 2004, I believe. They broke ground somewhere around there, 2004. Remember, they broke ground on this property in Largo. Church gone wrong. Church gone real wrong. So they were going to build this 3,000 seat, like, ample theater. Matter of fact, Richard Smallwood bought a organ. I can't quite remember it, but it was Paris, they had this almost $100,000 pipe organ sitting in storage waiting for the completion of the facility for several years. Wonder what happened to that organ. Anyway, Metropolitan, the ambition to build this big cathedral. Now, there are several reasons that this was going to be very difficult and almost impossible. And if people would have listened, they would have never ended up in this spot, because the whole premise was sold that most of our congregation are coming from PG County now. And yes, they were. A lot of the younger crowd were coming from PG County. With the older crowd, we're born in DC. See, DC is a very city where most of the time, it's not now, but like until 20 years ago, most native DCs, they were raised. They didn't move out of DC. People didn't move out of DC like New Orleans. People don't move out of New Orleans for the most part when they're raised there. Just certain cities people just don't move out of. DC was like that. So a lot of what held together Metropolitan from its existence around 1860 something to its present time, 1985, when they moved in that second facility and built it, were natives. that lived in DC. So you could walk to church. They were even in church before you had cars. You take trolley to church, you take horse and buggy to church. But things begin to change, as things always change. But then in the change, you have to move strategic. So Hicks' thought was most of our members are driving in from PG County because that's where the newer congregation lived. They wanted a house in the suburbs, safe, good schools. They had making good money. They had graduated. They were buried in debt, a lot of them, right? Buried in debt. But we're still going to go to Metropolitan. But we don't want to come out of Shananana and find out that a ticket on the car and being harassed and have to move and rush service so people won't get towed, et cetera, et cetera. So to alleviate all this, the visionary, Reverend Dr. H.B.J. Hicks Jr. thought that, hey, listen, we ought to go ahead and build this cathedral. He didn't say this, but this is a concept that I always wanted to build. And we found 34 acres in Largo. Now, to get some of these 34 acres, now, here's key. They had to sell some of the property that they owned in DC. Like I told you, they owned a block of houses right across the street from the church. Now, from what I understand, and I will not divulge my sources, but you can take this to the bank, that in lieu of moving, because this time the move was different. You can feel when stuff is different. This time the move felt different. Okay, moving from that old historic church that was on the screen, we get it, right? Built in 18 something, but this time you just built this in 85, right? Okay, you're outgrowing it, but we got a couple solutions. And I understand that there were a couple solutions offered, but Dr. Hicks had this cathedral in his mind. And one of the solutions were, okay, we own these houses across the street. We can knock these houses down and we can build, it's our property, a a walkway from Metropolitan Church over across 13th Street, and then we can upgrade at least 4 levels to a parking garage. And for the expansion of the church, so people won't have to wait in line, stand outside, we can knock the wall down, we have room behind us, and expand another 500 seats. That was offered to Reverend Dr. H.B.J. Hicks, and that way we still stay a viable voice, or maybe not just him, the board, or whoever wanted to do it, but a viable voice in the community in the time of transition. And I knew Metropolitan was transitioning because when I came back from Katrina and went to Metropolitan, I started seeing white people visit Metropolitan. They were coming out of the neighborhoods and they were sitting up there clapping, and Metropolitan was transitioning. And Metropolitan said, and the leadership said, no, we're going to God's land in Largo. And so people start making commitments. People start making vows. People start pledging. And they started a big campaign to buy this property, and they had to sell out. Remember those houses? Remember those houses that I told you that they own, that a recommendation was made that if they knock those houses down, they could, and I know somebody who said that they could personally get the permit from the city to build the garage. But again, his ambition, Dr. Hicks' ambition to move to Largo, to move into a 3,000 seat amphitheater style church, trumped the mission of go into all the world and preach, go and start in Jerusalem. Start in Jerusalem. That would have been a great time to captivate some of the audience, some of the residents that were moving in. But obviously, I'm not the visionary. Dr. H.B.J. Hicks was the visionary, right? Share this, right? Because this is a lesson for all of us that are leaders. And I told you I have my own story too. And I'm going to be just as transparent and just as blunt when it comes to me. Share this. You don't want to miss the Voice Over Now podcast. All right, now what happens? Here it is. So they start this fundraiser. So they need this money because remember, this is not the Metropolitan. These people don't own their houses. The people that built the Metropolitan in 1985, that audience, they own their houses. A lot of them were getting good retirements. A lot of them own their own businesses. This is a whole different crowd. And I heard that this was brought out. Listen, hold doc. Listen, let's not move too fast. This probably won't go the way you think it will go, because this time it was not a church meeting fight to move, because this is a younger audience. They weren't grown up in Metropolitan like the people that fought to build the 1985 church. The fight was not as much in the congregation this time to move to Largo. The fight was with the finances. The fight was with the how. The fight was trying to come up with how we gonna do this. When these people, excuse me, come here. Basically, when these people we got, the church is filled, but they ain't got no money. Oh, I know a lot of churches like that. Like this shit. Bodies in a seat don't mean money. Anyway, so share this. It's going to be a part of this. Is getting good, isn't it? Yes, because there's a lesson in this. Because sometimes you have to put people around you that you listen to. Because everybody has, though you're the visionary, you don't have eyes in the back of your head. Though you're the visionary, even with Wake Up, that's why I told you I'm not moving forward without certain people in place, because they help me to see. Yes, I'm the visionary. Yes, I'm the founder. Yes, God gave me the vision, but he also gave me people who can see things that I can't see. That's why I said in the beginning, we won't move forward with the Awakening Experience as excited as I am until Prophetess Kiara Raleigh and her team returns to put this in perspective so it will be done right? Because there's just some things I'm not going to see, some things I'll overlook, some things I'll miss, just like with April. There's just some things, and that's why, as a leader, you're the visionary. You cannot have an ego. When people speak, especially if a lot of people are saying the same thing, and a lot of people are saying, Doc, we're with you. But sometimes when you're a leader and you're ego-driven, when people don't agree with you, you interpret it that they are against you. I've been in that situation. I'm not against you. I just don't agree with your decision. Well, but when you mature and when you wise up, you understand that that's why you were put in my life in the first place. So when a lot of people you trust start telling you the same thing, maybe, just maybe, doctor, it's time to stop and listen, because a lot of valuable people start saying, I don't see how we're going to do this. And from what I understand, it was you against me, you against the vision. No. I'm not against the vision. I want to see the vision live. I want to see it survive. But I've got an alternative. We can stay in the neighborhood. We're paying for this church comfortably. We can take we got property in the city. Even if we need money, we can borrow against this property, knock these houses down, build a 4-story garage, add to the back of the church, give us another 500 seats. We got property. Hey, we got it made, and we can get the permits so nobody has to double park. We don't have to rush. We don't have to be harassed. But when the ambition trumps the mission, you say, forget it. We are going to Largo, whether you like it. That's what God is saying. So they start this campaign. Meanwhile, we run into 2008. Banks crash. What? Banks crash. Banks crash. All right, I know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to tell you next time. Hold that thought. Like, share. You don't want to miss part whatever of when church goes wrong. The Metropolitan Baptist Church. It's a lesson. And then hopefully the week after, when my church goes wrong. Remember, this is D. Foster III, CEO and President of Wake Up Global Networks. You have a voice. Keep lifting it.
Thank you for being a part of The Voiceover. Please follow us on all of our social media platforms to stay connected to our upcoming shows and guests. Instagram at The Voiceover Radio. Twitter at DPropheticI. That's the letter D, prophetic, EYE. If this show has enriched you in any way, please share The Voiceover among your circle. Until next time, keep allowing your voice to be heard.